It's high times for the Honda Civic. Since its introduction in the 9th generation for the 2012 model year, sales have gone positively gangbusters, beating out its main competitor, the Toyota Corolla. Numbers aside, Honda wasn't particularly satisfied with that first model year and went back to the drawing board to rethink their affordable compact after only 1 year. They sent it in for emergency surgery and it came out looking more stylish and better contented to compete in the uber-tight compact market. Now that brings us to the 2014 model year, and honestly, I don't think anybody expected what Honda had up its sleeve. They went back to the drawing board for a second time, this time scrapping their automatic transmission in favor of a CVT. That might come as a surprise until you consider the fact that Toyota did exactly that with the Corolla. The base model is still available with a manual transmission, but as soon as you start stepping up, you're saddled with the CVT. That's right, for the 2014 model year, the slush box is dead. As you can probably assume, it brings with it better fuel economy. In fact, numbers now are officially rated at 30 miles per gallon in the city, 39 on the highway, or a 33 combined figure. There's also a more efficient HF model that sees bigger gains with 31 miles per gallon in the city, 41 on the highway, or a combined 35, which is 3 more in the city, 2 more on the highway, or an overall 3 mpg improvement. The same 1.8-liter engine powers the front wheels, but a new exhaust means that it gets a little bit more powerful with 143 horsepower and 129 pound-feet of torque. Pricing for the CVT model starts at $19,780 including delivery, while a top-tier EXL model with navigation gets a similar increase and starts at $24,830. For 2014, the only stylistic changes to the Civic come with the coupe model. Honda gave it a more aggressive front end, including more blown-out looking air ducts in the front that granted don't do anything functionally but make the car look more aggressive. Around the rear, it also gets a more imposing bumper. At the base level, the car still comes with 16-inch steel wheels with hubcaps, although you can opt up to 16-inch alloys. Also, at the higher levels, you can have 17-inch wheels. Now, this model year has pretty much the same cabin as what you would have seen in 2013, except for one key difference. When you step up to the EX trim level, you get something called Honda's Display Audio, and it's really a cool piece of technology. If you have an iPhone 5, Display Audio essentially lets you port the screen from your cell phone onto the car's infotainment system. There's a Honda-specific app that you can download. It costs around $60, but what it does is it allows you to actually access your phone's navigation on the screen. It does cost money, but what it allows you to do is have touch, pinch, and swipe controls, much like what you're accustomed to using on your cell phone. Also, you'll have access to AHA radio, so you can figure out the music that you want to use and listen to while you're driving when you're doing anything from eating lunch or sitting in the office wasting a little bit of time. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. It kind of sucks that you have to pay for an app when you already have navigation on your phone, right? Well, maybe so, but the thing is, with the EX trim level, you wouldn't otherwise have access to navigation, so this is kind of like an easier and cheaper way to get in on some of the cooler features that the more premium model has. Speaking of iPhone compatibility, you'll also have access to your phone's Siri function. Finally, Honda is also offering its Lane Watch system, which uses a camera on the driver's side mirror to give you a much wider view of what's going on to your right-hand side. It's a technology that's honestly a no-brainer when it comes to safety and that we saw first on the Accord. But the biggest changes are to the powertrain, so let's get this thing out on the road and see what it can do. So we've got the same 1.8-liter four-cylinder engine, although it does make a little bit more power thanks to a better breathing exhaust that Honda fitted to the car for this model year. Of course, this car's been fitted with a CVT instead of the conventional automatic. Honda says that it actually will help the car be a little bit faster than the normal automatic that it replaces, although the real key here is that it should make the car more efficient. Unfortunately, we really haven't had quite enough time in the car to really gauge how that efficiency measures up to the claims. On the highway, we were seeing that it was, yes, very efficient, but a little bit lower than that figure I mentioned earlier. Most of the driving that we've done today has been at around highway speeds, so it really isn't terribly fair to comment on the efficiency of the car. We'll have to wait until we get one in for a longer term test. Now, Honda says that they didn't really have to repackage the car to keep it quiet, and you know, a lot of times people complain about the noise that CVTs make. When you step on the gas, you do get kind of a groaning sound, but it's really not that bad. Now, this is pretty much the same CVT that you get in the Accord, and just like that car, you can shift down from D into S mode. That's for a sportier experience, and specifically with the Coupe, you actually get paddle shifters, and the car will actually hang on to the revs, and you have to use the paddle shifters to reassign the gearing ratio to simulate what they'll call a shift, although it really isn't. Honda gave the Coupe specifically a bigger rear stabilizer bar compared to the last model year. That should help handling. On the other hand, and this isn't something that's necessarily new, but I have to point out, I absolutely love the steering wheel that they throw into the Civic. It's small, it's a lot of fun to spin around. That combined with the Civic's already solid dynamics makes for a pretty fun driving experience. Again, another high point for me with this car, the sight lines. You know, seeing out of the car is really a breeze. It's easy, the A-pillars aren't particularly thick, and it doesn't feel threatening, especially when you're going through twisty, windy roads or, you know, any sort of tight traffic situations. It's really very nice. As much as I love the touchscreen, there's one thing about it that drives me nuts. It means that you don't actually have a physical volume dial on the center stack anymore. And while I realize you can control the volume from the steering wheel set, you know, it's just not quite the same thing as being able to reach down and modulate your music. Still, you get access to internet radio and smartphone-like controls to move around on the map on the touchscreen. How cool is that? Last year, we took the time to compare the 2013 Civic sedan against the 2014 Corolla. If you had the chance to watch our review, you probably remembered that we gave Toyota the win. That decision was based on a variety of factors, but at the time, we felt that the Toyota was better positioned to deliver what people in the market would really be shopping for. Honda's latest trip back to the drawing board pays off. With new technology, better efficiency, and the fun-to-drive spirit that we talked about in that review, the Civic is back with a fresh competitive edge.